Have you been successful in all areas of your life except for your health? Do you know there's an old Arabian proverb that says, when you have your health, you have 1,000 wishes. When you don't have your health, you have but one, and it is to get your health. And sometimes there's aspects in our life where we're really the rug is pulled out from us. For some, it's been a diagnosis of cancer. For others, losing someone they really care about. And today on my Girlfriend Doctor show, I have a guest who actually is sharing that story, that exactly what was the pivotal point. Here in this episode, I am sharing with you the distinguished executive leader and certified life coach with over 18 years of experience in leading operations, leadership development, and managing multinational teams across continents. And she found herself like, okay, I'm watching friends that look like me transition, pass on, lose their life, and not experience, not be able to fulfill their bucket list items. And I'm really excited to share Angela's journey with you. Part of my Camino was you know, discovering myself, getting to know myself better rather than the doer of doing so many things in life, but to be and to appreciate. And Angela reminds me of that aspect and how she is being and also leading and empowering other people. I originally met her as she came on into my Magic Menopause program, and she was in our live Q&As and very active in the Facebook group sharing her experiences. And I just think that it's amazing to share stories of real people like you and me and how they're incorporating lifestyle changes and personal empowerment and advocating for themselves, for their test results, for being able to wean off prescriptions. And so I'm so excited to introduce Angela to you guys today. For those who've been in my Magic Menopause group or in my Girlfriend Doctor Club, you already know her. So, what you didn't know is really a lot of the backstory, which we're going to share with you today. So, I look forward to sharing her journey with you and introducing you to Angela now. Here we go. Welcome, Angela. I am so glad to have you here on the Girlfriend Doctor Show. I've been seeing your videos in our Magic Menopause community group and being able to chat in some of our live conversations, and you've been so inspiring. So, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dr. Anna. You're one of my all-time favorite people and doctors because you walk your talk, you're vulnerable, you're transparent, you genuinely care, and you teach other busy, stressed career women like myself to make time to look into their own health. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think it's important we get so busy in life, right? And when you said walk my talk, it just immediately took me back to my Camino because I'm like, and there's times you stumble on that walk, even in a very nicely lined out trail, right? We can stumble on that walk. And part of my Camino journey, Angela, was like this celebration of menopause. It was part of peace pilgrimage for me and my family. And it was also like, okay, we don't celebrate menopause. Why don't I make this like I celebrate menopause? I'm going to do something that's hard, that's a challenge, and see how it, and see how I do. And I really didn't know what to expect. And so as part of that, I really wanted to bring the stories of other women that have like you show up celebrating. You do show up celebrating. I know it wasn't always this way for you. So I'd love for you to share part of your journey with us.
Sure. So if anyone meets me today, 2024, hopefully you're going to see a vibrant Angela who's 61 years young, but who looks way, way better than that. And someone who really believes that joy and fun without guilt, without a feeling that we owe it to other people to stay at work or we owe it to other people to do what they want us to do. And instead, it's our second spring. And how I got to this new spot was really through pain. That's why, Dr. Anna, I related to some of your stories. In 2010, my brother, who was 42 years old, was on his way home from work. He pulled into the median strip. He was a man of faith, never really drank, smoked, a good guy, youth pastor, entrepreneurial. And he transitioned. No one could figure out why. There didn't seem to be anything wrong. He had just been to his doctor. All of his health numbers were looking great. The only thing that gave me comfort when they found him, he had a smile on his face. So we said the angels met him. So that happened,
Wow, I'm
in
sorry.
2010. A week later, my mom had an aneurysm, I think out of grief, right? Because no one's expecting to bury their child, and you've been in those shoes, you know what that feels like. So, ironically, my mother's sudden death from an aneurysm, they said she was 95% brain dead, and then it took a bit for her to transition. They were the 2 people who were so pivotal for the entire family. I got through that, honestly, by bearing the grief, helping to make sure that the funerals went well, helping to take care of my beautiful niece who was 3 years old at the time, and my brother was in the process with his wife of adopting 6 foster kids. I went back to England, and I basically unknowingly buried that and put my head down. I had 1,200 people under my purview at that time. I had 6-year-old and 8-year-old. I'm like, I just have to, plow through it.
When you
And so
mean you had 1,200 people under your purview, what does that mean?
I managed. I was a leader for 1,200 people,
Wow.
actively day-to-day management. And it was an important job and one where I just didn't think or feel that I had time to grieve, right?
Mhm,
It was unconscious. I didn't knowingly do that, but in retrospect, in hindsight, oh, I buried that because I needed to quote unquote survive. And my daughters being young, my husband working at the same time as me, all that went through my mind. So fast forward 2019, all that grief is underneath. My really dear friend, who was my mentor and who looked like me, she went into hospice on a Friday, and by that Tuesday, she was gone. And my other friend, who had lupus, never ate a vegetable, right?
mm,
So I like keto-green. She transitioned in December. Those 2 deaths rocked my world because they had been my pillars when
mhm,
my mom and my brother transitioned. So I'm a high-powered executive. They were higher ranked than me, like they were number 3 and number 4 in their respective organizations, right? So, uh, just getting it all done.
mhm,
But what I noticed after their passing, number 1, people's worlds fell apart for a couple weeks, but no one jumped in the casket with them.
mhm,
Nobody, right? And it left a world of hurt when my mom and my brother transitioned. They had been so pivotal, but in all 4 cases, this is why I love your program. None of them did self-care the way that you encourage us to do it. And so I'm sitting there asked to give the eulogy type of comments from my friend Pat's funeral. And the thing that really just hit me in the gut, and which is why I do the coaching work that I do today, I'm looking at her. I was there 15 minutes after she transitioned, and she was still somewhat warm. She hadn't gotten, I guess when you die, you get cold, but
mhm,
she didn't feel dead yet. I'm not around a lot of dead people, but she didn't feel like she had really, gone, right? And all
mm,
I could think about was, wow, all this stuff that she said we were going to do. Like we talked about travel, we talked about going to all these places in Europe. And I remember saying, on this side of heaven, none of that's going to happen for her.
mm.
And I made a promise to myself that I was going to start to change. So from 2019, which is a year before COVID, I started saying, how can I be different? I don't want to keep being a blue, black, or gray suit person at the head of the table, predominantly in an all-male environment, eating a Snicker for my lunch. Sorry.
That was one of my favorites, by the way.
Yeah. Not having time to go to the bathroom, asking my office manager, schedule me 5 minutes. I got to go to the bathroom, right? And never getting home or maybe being gone from 7 until 10 at night. Or sometimes my boss would say, and I said, yes, no boundaries. Hey, could you cover a 2 a.m. meeting? Could you cover a 4:30 a.m. meeting? Could you lead the 8:30 stand-up meeting? And I thought that was a compliment. And I said, sure, right? Not realizing the lack of sleep, which your program taught me, can really mess up your hormones. Not realizing that constant stress, even good stress, can mess up your hormones. But knowing that my 2 friends transitioned, I was like, "You know what? I don't wanna go that path." Like, you just sorta know, I don't wanna do what they did, so I started doing the opposite, but not really knowing how to do stuff. And then, you came on Sherry Salada's program, and I loved your title, The Girlfriend Doctor. I said, I could use someone who knows about, your body, right? I grew up a pastor's child and very religious. We didn't learn too much, right? Um, and then just not being so interested in the medical part, I didn't know a whole lot of stuff. I didn't know how to spell hormones beyond, I could probably, try to do it, but past that, had no knowledge. And so for me, your program has been an absolute answer to prayer. And I would say that after uh, a good 2 years of investing in myself and starting with your Keto Green 16, listening to your podcast, kind of watching what you were doing, I started eating differently. I started thinking differently. I started working on my sleep. I got that sunlight and sauna to help with. I had big exposure to mold that put me in the hospital in Japan. So I learned from your test stuff, oh, toxins can cause you not to lose weight. So I put that in place. Then I ordered those glasses from the place that says you need to let sunlight in, and you told us to go for walks in the morning and at night to help our circadian rhythm reset. So basically, I treated you like, not quite like Jesus, but if Dr. Anna said it, I'm going to try it, right?
Wow.
And it resulted in over the course of, so I started your program before I went to Italy in 2023. When I was in Magic Menopause, I'm walking through the train terminal at King's Cross. And this was a little bit funny, but embarrassing, but funny more. So I'll share it. I'm walking, I'm like, I think my pants are starting to fall off, right? And I was like, no, it's not the case. And I kept walking. I'm like, oh yeah, it's my pants. If I don't grab them, they're gonna fall off, right?
Oh, no.
Because losing so much weight. And I was sort of like not paying attention. So
Or
literally
surprised you.
it surprised me, and I had to hold my pants with one hand and pull my suitcase with the other one because they really were falling off, right? So when I went shopping to get new pants, because I didn't want that to happen again, I had on clean underwear, but who wants to have that experience, right? And go viral.
That's a
So
good visual, Angela.
it was an embarrassing visual. And so I was down two pant sizes, right? At my highest, I was a size 22. At my quote unquote stable, I was a size 20. And now I'm a size 14 with the W. So I'm not a straight 14, but a 14W. And I
That's
believe
amazing.
from your program.
Mm.
I really credit that. I'm not just saying that to make you feel good. I talk to everyone. Dr. Anna says, Dr. Anna's program does this. Did you know such and such, right? I even go on my Facebook. I do a whole bunch of lives and I do them in a public setting because I'm trying to help perhaps another busy, stressed career woman who is thinking, I've got to be at this meeting. I've got to take care of my kids. I got to be this for my husband, and they put themselves unknowingly last on their list. Tomorrow's not promised. You could drop dead, you could get sick, you could have an aneurysm, you could be in the median strip and meet the Lord or whoever is your spiritual, center. And if you haven't made time to travel, to have fun, to work on your health, to really take your hormones seriously, you could be like my friend Pat. And so that's what's really that's my passion. That's what motivates me to try to help first myself. I'm the first client, right? And then to help others. And then I'll add that your balance cream, your Jolva cream, your Mighty Maca, and the keto green shake, those are all additional lifesavers. So the funny part with the Mighty Maca, so I was on a trip. I'm a part-time travel agent, not to be a travel agent, but really just to get busy, stressed career women to take a trip and go somewhere. So
Nice,
we're
nice.
sitting in the hotel. We were in Rome, and I had the little green, the travel packets.
Mhm.
So I put two in they give you a small little European cup. I put two in that. I'm like, that's not enough room. So I asked for a bigger cup and I put it in there. And I'm sitting there at the round table, and the person beside me is like, that stuff stinks. And she really said it dismissively, right? And that was like my first week using it. So I said to her, oh, uh, this is from a doctor I've met, and I really am admiring her work. I want to get healthier. And so I moved to a different table. I wasn't gonna stop taking my stuff. I moved to a different table, and after I drank it, then I came back and I joined the group. So she now is saying to me, "What's that doctor?" Because she can see the transformation, right? And I said, "Her name is Dr. Anna Cabeca, and I really think that the Mighty Maca helps you to detox, help your adrenal glands. Am I saying it
Mhm.
right?
Adrenal glands, yeah.
Adrenal glands." And I said, she was a lifesaver for me. And so she's the funniest example because she was so
Anti-green, right? Like, it
and
looks
making
like, I
sure.
mean, it does, it looks like Fear Factor, but it tastes good, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it tastes delicious, like, I put it with lemon. So that was a bit of a funny one, and then with the, balance, right? Okay, how you got me on that one, when you said, "Hey, I put some health benefits, of course, in it, but for those who care about your skin, if you apply it, it helps you not to have wrinkles." So I became real committed, right?
So that's how I yeah, that's how I work
Yeah,
too,
I'm
Angela.
faithful to that. And then the Julva cream, when you said, "Hey, we take care," like, I don't leave the house without lipstick, and I definitely wanna have moisturized lips, and I thought, "Okay, those aren't for public viewing, but why would I have my, lips on my face to look really great, and then the rest of my body maybe not to have had the same type of attention?" So, I use that Jolver faithfully. I take the, breaks that you recommend to make sure my body continues to produce what it's able to produce. But when you said that our periods are the start, basically, I'm going to say our reproductive natural cycle, and that we should view menopause as part of that continuum, that made a lot of sense to me. And, I never paid attention on periods. I was fortunate not to have really bad ones. I also grew up with 5 brothers, so it wasn't as if anyone was gonna commiserate with me if I said I was hurting, forget it. Um, but then the understanding that menopause is a healthy part of our process of living, and it can be viewed as the second spring, or it brings us into more wisdom. All of that has been so helpful. I wish that I knew some of that before my friends got sick. I wish I had known
Mhm,
some of that to tell my mom. And
mhm,
even the guests that you've had on that dealt with guys, right? That was so helpful because, like my husband, he now has his own Mighty Maca. At
mhm,
first, he was taking some of mine. He's like, "Oh, I like how I feel when I take that stuff." And I said, "This is my Mighty Maca. I need it." I said, "You can order some." So I helped him to get on his own subscription plan, and he's looking more youthful too, right? So it's not, you didn't create products that just help the women, right? That's
mhm,
my care about busy, stressed career
mhm,
women. But you help, if you love people, including your husband or your significant other, you want everyone to be vital and healthy. My brother's passing so suddenly, um, you
mhm.
know, it's left a hole that a lot of people, maybe they don't even know how to address it. I did what's it called, a Facebook Live last week. I'm doing the 31-day live challenge, and I labeled it "Unresolved Grief Blocks Joy." And I talked about, you know, my experience with that. And that's where I acknowledged that I had buried that grief. But after my two friends transitioned, I realized you got to address this because it's really blocking your ability to have joy. So fast forward to Angela of today, it's because I've done the work. I've gotten the help with grief. I know now that I'm worthy. Jamie Kern Lima's book Worthy is awesome for that. I know that I'm worthy of time for myself. I know that to be a good example to my daughters, even if they don't see it, it's better for me to show them mom is taking care of herself. Mom is investing in things that help her to stay vibrant and healthy. So I won't be in a nursing home. So
Mhm.
I won't be dependent on my kids to say, what are we going to do for mom, right? I want to be like what you said, Dr. Anna. I want to be vibrant at 90. I want to be sassy at 80, right? I want to be able to walk.
Naughty at 90.
Yeah, yeah. I want to be able to walk the beach in Portugal. Some of those are really steep to get down to
Yeah,
them, and come back up and think, wasn't that difficult, right? Where before, walking from my office to the bathroom, I went slow
yeah,
and it
it
was
hurts.
flat,
We're
so
part of that sandwich generation.
Yeah.
Angela. They call it the sandwich generation. My brother, brought that attention to me, many years ago, but he said, there's like, we're the hardest working generation. We're sandwiched in between the boomers and the millennials. I'm like, we got to get work done, right? And we just knew that, 24/7 I have to work. It's, like from morning, it's my to-do list and I got to check those boxes. And the last thing on our list, right above make love to our husband, our partner, right? Right above that is take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's the last thing on our list. And at the end of the day, we're just so exhausted. It's like, I don't know how many days I slept with full makeup on or whatever. I just like, passing out in bed. And it's a shift. Exactly what you said is like how you're shifting to be a good example. Like you're like, okay, if I can't tell my kids to do this if I'm not doing it. And for myself, like those mornings I don't want to get up and work out. I'm like, but my daughter will see me. My kids will know that I did it. And I'm always happy when I'm done it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
that shift. And then here you are, a leader, an executive of people, right? In the boardrooms, in front of like, the head, like leading 1,200 people. So it's that, ability to manage, its ability to discern priority and ability to bring out the best in people. And then making that shift. Okay, now I have to do this for myself. Like, what was the mindset around that? Like, how did, like, realizing, so was it, uh, the death of your brother, the death of those dear friends, to feel those loss, to feel that loss, and and like just to make that shift.
I think that for me, it's a great question. My mom and my brother, I was 46, I want to say at that time. My brain was so type A that, I mourned them. Like I called for the first time after we had just come in the door a week after burying my brother to England. My family lives in Maryland. The phone rang. This was probably pre-cell phones. And they said, Angela, your mom has had an aneurysm. Could you get back home? And I was like, I'm empty tank here. And so I called the psychologist at my job. Normally, she's briefing me on this is what's happening in the workplace. And I said, hey, I need to ask you something for myself. So I told her what was going on. And I said, I don't have it. I'm just depleted. I'm supposed to take my 6-year-old to Nice for her birthday. She was turning 6, so she was 5. What should I do? And she said, go to Nice, do what you can for a couple of days to recenter and then go back home. And so I'm so happy. That was like the best advice that I got because I sat on the beach in Nice and tears just flowed. And I think that was making space for space.
Mhm.
So when I came back and walked into that ICU, I'm so happy. I think I only spent like 3 or 4 days. My family stayed the rest of the time, but I flew onward to Maryland. I'm getting hit left and right with what should we do? What should she get buried in? What do you think? It was like no break. And I said, hey, just gotten off a plane. I haven't seen my mother yet. But you hold your questions. I'll be able to help you, but let me go see my mother. Setting boundaries, right?
Mhm.
So after those two deaths, it was a blur, to be honest with you. I really buried it, right? I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. It's only my friend Pat's death that was in 2019, that was in the September timeframe. It's because she looked like me. That's what got my attention, right? She's
Mhm.
dead. And I remember I lifted her hand. It was a beautiful hospice room, beautiful wood paneling right up the street from my house. I lifted her hand and the hand just dropped. That wasn't normal for me, right? I'm not used to being around dead people. And then I put my hand in front of her nose because she didn't look dead. And I'm like, did they make a mistake? Is she breathing? And when I felt nothing back, I'm like, she's really dead. So in that moment, the grief, the sense of, man, she talked about us going so many places. None of that's going to happen. That was when, like, a flagpole went into the sand, and I said, it will not be my life. I will not go out like this.
Mhm.
And so I I didn't know how to change at first. I just knew I didn't want that. Right? So
Mhm, mhm.
sometime the beginning is you just start doing the opposite. I knew she worked until 9 o'clock every night. I knew she went to work on most Saturdays and half day Sundays because she would call me. I might be at work on the Saturday, right? I took Sunday as the Lord's Day, so a lot of times I wouldn't go in. I stopped some of that. I'm like, she's dead. Whatever
Mhm,
it was, I don't want to do the same. And she was Harvard graduate, mentor to so many people. Her death was pivotal.
yeah,
Then COVID, when COVID hit, all of us were home. And during that window, if you weren't thinking about the possibility of dying, you're just not telling the truth to yourself.
mm,
If you're human, the thought of could I die? Could I catch this? It had to hit at least one time. Even if you were like the best person with knowing all the vitamins, it was still real scary and very touching to watch the people in Italy singing to each other, right? So
mhm.
that was when I said, I'm going to switch my focus. I'm not going to stay the way I've been. And I made the decision, really without a lot of prep, to say I'm going to retire. And it was because at that time, the person who I was working for, he was definitely not a believer that any of this stuff was real. And he was asking us to basically come in on the weekend to check emails for no reason but to just be at work. It wasn't as if there was something at that moment that was life or death. And I thought, this guy, perhaps not being knowledgeable, he could cause us to transition. And I didn't look like I do now, right? I was uh almost 280 pounds or
No
so back
way.
then, and
Wow.
high blood pressure. When they talked about all the, what's it called, comorbidity indicators,
Comorbidities, high blood
I'm like, I
pressure.
got I got too many. And so it
Were
was
you
real.
diabetic or pre-diabetic?
I wasn't, thank goodness I wasn't, but my father, my aunts on his side, everyone had the diabetes, I think lifestyle, and regrettably, some of them had had parts cut off, the foot or whatever.
Mhm, mhm,
And so I had seen that. And on my mom's side, um, the heart attacks and dementia were too common, right? So it was the shake up of my friend Pat, that one. Combined with the realization from COVID, you might think you have a lot of time to fix all this stuff, but tomorrow is absolutely not promised, right? Because I already saw my mom, my brother, my friend Pat, my friend Tony. I saw that. That was when uh, there's a song, I'm running for my life. That's when that started. That's when I started a better prayer relationship, and saying, I'm going to try to do things differently. But it took me from 2020 until about 2022 to really, I kept it in my mind. I was moving towards it, but really, really making it a priority and making myself a priority. That took a bit of time because I believe, perhaps like some other women who are listening to this podcast, if we're not careful, sometimes busy, stressed, highly successful, high achiever type A women can equate accomplishments with self worth.
mhm,
But really, self worth is an inside job. And if no one has really instilled in you how priceless you are, how valuable you are just for you, not because of what you do, not because of who you help, not because of your degrees, none of that, but just because who we are. If that's not really, really deeply planted, in my case, I use work and bonuses, accomplishments as a proxy for self-worth. But when I got quiet during the COVID shutdown, I realized that there was like a little girl in me who was in elementary school, and she was the valedictorian of her class, and she was giving a speech, and her parents weren't present because they were off doing a revival. And somewhere during that moment, I remember she was wearing a light blue long gown with a white square lace top because they were super religious. Nothing could show, right? We had nothing on groups that keep women really dressed with nothing showing. That was me, right?
mhm,
And so somewhere during that window, unknowingly, the thought that I must not be enough, I must not be worthy, my parents aren't here, it planted, right?
mhm,
And then over time, my parents were really good pastors giving to the community. Perhaps they didn't know, hey, I've got kids at home. Maybe they need time too. We would give, my parents would have us look at what you have. What can you share? Okay, that sounds good. But if you don't feel like you have it to share and you have to share it, it can also contribute to, hmm, I must have to give to others. I must not be worthy of just keeping something because I just want to keep it. So that period of COVID shutdown helped me to really say, oh, Angela, even though you're all successful externally, on the inside, there's healing that needs to happen. And so I got a therapist. I started journaling. I started really reflecting and doing the inner work to really know flat footed, no matter what. If I'm barefoot, if I'm bald headed, if both of my boobs fall off, I'm worthy.
Mhm.
That took time.
Wow.
And as I stepped into knowing I'm worthy, my ability to set boundaries, my ability to put myself and my health first, my ability to pray and say, God, I want different. I don't know how to do this. God, could you show me what I might need to change? I don't know how to eat other than Southern cooking, right?
Mhm, mhm.
That was supposed to be healthy for you. And then that's when I met you. So for me, you were my answer to prayer. Long prayed, and I think God was like, okay, she's just knocking at this door every day. Go help her. And I found you, and I'm so grateful because you gave me the roadmap. Number one, you were vulnerable. I was losing my hair during that window, right? Like, oh, I had been through tragedy. I said, oh, and then your keto green approach, I was like, she wants me to give up my cookies, my cake, my pasta. I love Italian pasta. Oh, here's why. This is what it can do. And as I started to research it, I'm like, it makes sense. And then as I tried it, my body was like, yeah, I like this. And then when I learned that diabetes is considered by many to be type 3, um,
Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. Yeah.
as Alzheimer's. Yeah, thank you. And I'm looking at my aunties. I'm like, I don't want that. So it was really a road of, I'm searching and you're available and you're helping all these women. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you put your hand up to say, I'll tell people about stuff that they need to do. And I'll make sure that resources are out there. Um, I really think that it's the reason I'm going to live a long time. I think if I had not changed, I probably would be a statistic of dropping dead at work because I
Mhm,
surely wasn't home,
mhm.
right? I surely wasn't home, or a statistic of divorced, not knowing her kids, but probably the dropping dead at work or dropping dead on the way home from work because, I didn't know. Sometimes what you don't know can really, really hurt you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And then,
that was me.
Angela, that's such a story. And it's like the emphasis is that, you are brilliant, right? You know so much, you're leading others. What was your medical care? And you said 280 pounds. That is hard to imagine, but like, high blood pressure, dealing with this, struggling, the hair loss, um,
I would say that
again,
the
and
medical
that when you had said, accomplishments. Hey, I'm triple board certified. Did I need to be triple board certified? No, I do not
I
need
brag
to be.
about that though. That's a brag. I'm like, she's triple board certified. She knows
Yeah,
about it.
yes,
Right.
totally. But it's like it was that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Like I need to know more. And I'm still a student, but I know I'm worthy. I know like I am blessed beyond belief. And and I want to instill that in my children. But I came from that place too, where, I needed the outside um reinforcement of my worth. And so then I'm curious about your, like, again, top executive, top insurance, top doctors. What was how were the doctors guiding you? How was the medical? Because I know you're in here because I hear you in our live calls, like you're advocating for yourself at your doctor's office now. But how were where
Well,
was the support you were getting there?
so Dr. Anna, for anyone who's thinking that and I'm not anti-doctors, but for
Oh,
anyone who's
I'm not
thinking
either.
that their doctors are like the MD, you know, whatever doctors, like many gods or whatever, many deities. Mm-mm. Doctors get trained, and depending on how long they've been out of medical school, most of them have not gotten any type of training on nutrition because I ask. They don't really know more than their particular area. And sometimes they don't even have the latest information. I got an undergraduate degree, I got a master's from the top school in the country, a law degree from Georgetown. I like accomplishments. I also like doing research. And so I'm going to my doctor saying, here's the lab results. Here's this, here's that. And basically they were like, oh, you're okay. And their solution was to give me more medicine. So I started saying, hey, at one time I was taking 5 different medicines. I said, has anyone looked to see how these medicines interact with each other? And I heard you talk about your mom. And they weren't paying attention. So then I went back to I wound up having a cardiologist because I broke my foot, little type A. On a Sunday, I'm up there watering my new trees on the hillside, never thinking that if you're watering a tree on the hillside, it can make a sliding board and you can break a foot, right? Which is what happened. So when I wound up this is during COVID shutdown. When I wound up in the hospital, 2 different doctors came in to see me. They said, we just want to see who could break a foot. I forget what you call those bones, but it broke it all the way across. Nothing
Ooh.
was there. And without getting gross, the foot was doing a spin, right? Which hurt like heck. And so they said, oh, yeah, that was a nasty break. Like it was exciting a little bit for them to see such a big break, right? My regular doctor, she was my primary care doctor. She had breast cancer. She was a breast cancer survivor. But in retrospect, she was burned out and she probably didn't know it. So I kept saying to her, Dr. So and so, I'm not losing weight, but I'm doing all this stuff. Eat less. She would almost say it like judgmentally. So I'm recovering type A, but I'm still used to speaking up when I need to, right? I'm trained in conflict resolution as one of my areas of expertise and negotiation. So I said, Doctor, you've been my doctor for this many years. I've never, disparaged anything that you've said to me, but when I'm bringing you a valid concern, you don't have anything beyond attempting to make me feel bad. And I said, I'm not in that space. I don't know why I'm not losing weight, but I'm looking for answers. So I left her office, went in my car, and started Googling, good doctors near me. And I switched doctors, right? Because that conversation was not edifying, it wasn't uplifting. And I was like, she doesn't have anything right now that she can contribute. With my endocrinologist, at one time I had a pituitary adenoma, and I was like, "What's that?" Right? And so when I learned, "Oh, it means you don't have a period," I was like, "Yes!" I was happy as heck because at that time I was a workaholic, and I thought, "Who needs a period?" But from your program, I recognize that if you don't have a period, there are things that aren't happening in your body, right? Well, I didn't know you back then. So eventually my husband's like, are we gonna ever have kids? I was like, you want kids? And so that's when I started seeing an endocrinologist to get on, I think it was bromocriptine, and eventually my prolactin levels went to a better place and I got pregnant, right? Um, so good endocrinologist. I met a cardiologist when I broke my foot. They did a workup before you have any type of surgery. And at that time, they said, oh, your heart has a little bit of a too fast, irregular heartbeat. It was basically means it was beating too fast sometimes, but it was irregular, like you didn't pick it up. So he put me on medicine for that. And after I had the foot healed, I went back to him and I said, do I have to stay on this medicine? Here are the side effects. I think it was called metoprolol. I said, here are the side effects of this. Um, they don't sound too good. I'm trying to lose weight. I really want to get my cholesterol, my blood pressure, all that stuff to be better. And because I had lost the 40 pounds, he said, okay. And I told him, I said, this is my plan. I said, I'm staying keto green. I'm with Dr. Anna Cabeca and her program. I have a new primary care doctor. I'm doing this, this, and this. I laid out for him, my new approach. And I said, give me 6 months. If things are not continuing in the better direction, I'm willing to revisit, a lot more medicine, but I want a chance to let my body do what it's supposed to do. And so you had talked to us about intermittent fasting. So I added that into my regimen in terms of things that I do. So none of them knew. I mean, none of them really knew the stuff that you shared, right? They don't say I don't know. They're doctors, right? They're used to being the smart ones. They would say, "Oh, really?" And then they would start taking notes. I'm like, yeah, her podcast is called this. And here's what she said about this. I said, she's triple board certified from Emory and she's asked to speak all over the world. And I said, I think she's phenomenal. I said, if you have any issues or someone who I said, I recommend that you check her out. Right. And
You're
then
so funny. I'm like, I'm honored. Thank you, really.
it's true. It's true. I want to share it because I didn't know you were my answer to prayer. Who's to say that someone else isn't sitting there saying, I need help and they don't know where to go. So if we're counting on just the doctors to help us stay healthy, particularly in the American way, I don't think it's going to work out. And I thank God for doctors. They play a vital role and anyone who lives in the States who has not traveled to other countries, guess what? Our food supply, my dog is trying to get out the room, our food supply, our way of how we do things and what's allowed to go into the food, none of that really helps us to stay, it's just not good for us, right? It
Yeah,
has so
it's
many, so many
learning
different,
about the toxins and the hormone disruptors and all of
yeah,
that. And
yeah.
with that, like were you able to reduce any of the medications from 5 pills or?
Yes, but it wasn't because the doctor recommended it. It's because I went in with the test results and I made my case, right?
Mm,
So I got off of metoprolol, I got off of statin. When I came back from one of my trips, because my husband lives in England right now, and so I was going over there like every 4 weeks to 6 weeks. Okay, one of those trips, I probably didn't drink enough water. Then when I got back home, I went to the spa and did a cold plunge. I was trying to be like Tony Robbins, but I wasn't in shape like Tony Robbins. And
It's a shock on the system even. Yeah, like I'm still
yeah,
having a hard time with that one.
yeah.
So,
So I woke up in the emergency room with something called global transient amnesia, and I never heard of that when I let my dog out the door. I never heard of that. And then they said it's common when you travel too much, when you don't, um, you know, take care of your body. Basically, I learned a new condition. And so they sent me to a neurologist. And the neurologist said, you need to get on statin. I was like, I hear statin's not good for you. She's like, your cholesterol is 160. You need to be on statin. So I
you mean
said,
your LDL cholesterol? Because total the
um,
bad cholesterol was 160?
the bad one. And
Yeah.
she told me, she said, oh yeah, I had a doctor friend who basically transitioned. So when I hear that word transition, it gets my
Mm.
attention. So I started, but I went back to my primary care doctor and I said, she told me that I need to be on this statin. What can I do that's a natural approach? I'm willing to make changes to, not have it to stay there. So I was already in your world, but my commitment to doing the keto green and not having occasional cookie or going to a birthday party. I know that you can do certain things, but my commitment to saying I'm going to find alternatives like strawberries or blueberries instead of always thinking I need to say yes if I get offered certain things, all of that helped. And so I don't take the statin. And I talked to my primary care doctor. I saw her last Thursday. um, I asked her, hey, what's necessary? What do I need to do to get my blood pressure medicine? Because they doubled everything to go lower. And so we mapped out a plan and I she helped me to get the T3, free T3, T4, the stuff you talked about, right? And I got my results from some of that. And I'm going to look it up because I think you said if you have any of those antibodies, you need to pay attention to it. she told me my TPO is 61. So I'm gonna go meet with her to say, I'm gonna research it, but I'm gonna
Mm.
do whatever I can do to figure out how to change that up. So I now view
So
my
it's good
doctor.
you know, again, you advocated for yourself. You're like, "Okay, I need this test." Now you know you have
Yeah,
the thyroid antibody. So, like,
yeah,
it's a form of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and think, okay, why is my body attacking itself? And then
yeah,
continuing to do that work, the
yeah,
trauma work,
yeah,
the food sensitivity work, the toxin work, and um,
yeah,
it's inspirational, Angela. So when you have like, and what was you said you were well over 280 pounds. I mean, where, how much did you lose overall? And again, just like, I like to say your diagnosis isn't your destiny. You reverse your high cholesterol. You're hopefully will be able to get off that blood pressure medicine, the condition of watching your blood sugar and your family history of diabetes and paying attention to that stuff.
yeah.
So,
So
and
right
getting off
now,
a beta blocker, which can cause diabetes too. So, they can contribute to insulin resistance or high
yeah,
glucose. So, like
absolutely.
advocating for yourself to get off of, I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's
Well, the
impressive.
part honestly, Dr. Anna, I didn't know. I just didn't know is probably the best word, right? What you don't know can hurt you. It's only when I heard you talking about in the hormone section of Magic Menopause, hey, this is what you should be doing. And even though they say this is the range, you want to be optimal. Test, don't guess. Put your Nancy Drew hat on, that I started saying, okay, let me get in there. Just because I don't know it doesn't mean that that's where you stop, right? So, I now I'm like, okay, she said T3 reverse is 10 and this is 61 and free T3 is 3.2. I got my results today. I'm going to go look this stuff up. I'm going to watch your presentation again to know how this fits. And then you introduced me to one of your colleagues who talked about if you have antibodies, they're hitting your thyroid and it's not good for you. So my grandmother had a goiter, one of my aunts had a goiter. I don't know what causes the goiter yet, but I know that I don't want one.
Right, right. I don't want one.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm just doubly committed. Like your upcoming Magic Menopause program, I'm going to be back in there because I'm not done, right? I'm now under 240. Like maybe I'll be 239. Some days I might be 240. And I'm like, why am I not going down? Now, this might sound controversial, so this is from a non-medical person.
Mhm.
After I lost 40 pounds, not before, but after I lost 40 pounds, using the keto-green approach primarily and exercising, changing my sleep pattern, getting out and getting sunlight in the morning, my doctor said, "You're eligible to get on a weight loss drug." So I started Wegovy, and I've done, 2 you get 4 shots in each pack, so I've done 8 weeks of Wegovy. But for me, I don't think I'm losing weight,
Mm.
because my weight loss isn't continuing, right? So when I met with her, I said, I never plan to be on this stuff long term. If I'm not losing weight, I don't want to keep doing it. And so we talked about, I'm not certain what I'm going to do yet, but we talked about me not using the weight loss medicine, going straight to keto green because I was losing weight doing the keto green and seeing if that does it, because ultimately I want to lose another, I want to be like around 175, right, which would be probably a size 12, maybe a 10 on certain things. And I'm not doing it because I want to be so cute. I think I look cute now, right? I get hit up by
Absolutely.
younger guys on the regular, which is why I admire you, because you've kept your femininity, you kept your feminine energy. You're smart as heck as a doctor. You help other people. It can be both of those. It doesn't have to be that we have to take on male traditional power. We can be our feminine selves and still bring a lot to the table. So I
And even
want,
more, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, God did make Eve last, she was the masterpiece, so I agree. Anyway, so I am my thinking, unless my doctor really says differently, is to, with her help, get off of the weight loss medicine. I think she'll have to take me, I'm only at 50. She's probably gonna take me to 25 and then I'll stop it and just do the keto green because that was working, right? And from what I'm learning with the weight loss medicine, which people think is the be all and end all, for some it can be, right? I listen to Oprah and, I don't judge anyone for doing whatever is necessary to get themselves to be healthier. But when I learned that it can eat your muscle, and when I learned that it makes your stomach slow down, I'm like, "Hmm, is that better for me when I need to get rid of toxins?
Yeah.
Or should I try it the natural way?" I think I'm going to go back to trying it the natural. I'm still doing the keto green approach, but I find that I have to really remind myself to eat, right? Um, so for me, that may not be the door that I need to be at, right? For some people, it could very well be the door. Also,
And
when
I
they
think
do,
it's the trial and error piece, right? It's the
yeah,
trial and error figuring it out. And we are going to have someone in the next round of Magic Menopause talk about peptides,
yeah,
peptide therapy, and different type of peptides. And when it comes to the GLP-1s, like semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, those different ones, where microdosing can sometimes be an option versus the standard dosing, which can be, I mean, very,
yeah.
very high and very, work up to that. And certain people with significant medical issues benefit from those higher doses periodically. But in general, I'm always like start low, go slow, but work with your body. And you've got to be doing these other things right because addressing what caused the metabolic dysfunction, addressing those issues and, you know, um, I can't get healthy in the same environment you got sick in, right?
Takes more
So
than hormones to fix hormones.
takes more than
And
hormones.
yeah, your test where it said check for toxins, right? My quiet inner knowing says you probably still have mold in your system. It was such the house was covered in green and white, fuzzy, and a
Mm,
little bit of black. I lived in Japan on that tour, and we had gone home for 2 weeks, didn't know, turned off the air conditioning, came back in. My husband was still back in the States, and I didn't know it was mold. I just put on some gloves and started cleaning. And it's only when I felt like the equivalent of a boot on my chest and I couldn't breathe
can't
that
breathe.
I
Yeah.
wound up in the hospital. And they went and they have environmental specialists and they were like, the house isn't livable. So they moved me within like a day or two, right? I didn't go back in the house. So I'm like, I know I've had exposure. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I probably need to give my body a chance to have all of the pathways to get toxins out
Yeah.
clear and open, right?
Yeah.
Instead of something that may slow down the passageway. That's what I'm leaning towards as a really commit to keto green. I love how your program, when you give us cooking videos, I'm looking at those. It's pretty easy to do the stuff, right? You have to make time for it, but you taught us olive oil with some lemon. I'm like, "Oh, that's an easy dressing, right?" Or how you might cook some salmon or just the different ways that we've been taught, how to make food because I wasn't cooking for myself that much. Usually I was hosting dinner somewhere and the food was tasty, but I bet you they had some seed oils in that kitchen, which I've learned now can be just as bad for you as sugar, what's it called, insulin resistance, right?
Mhm.
So I call myself eating keto green, Dr. Anna, and I turned my salad dressing over because I was like, "Oh, I don't have to make the olive dress. I'm just going to get one from Whole Foods, thinking all that stuff is healthy." Well, after I learned about seed oils, and I looked on the back, it has seed oils. Guess who's not having that anymore, right? Now I do, I think it's called Primal Kitchen. I'm looking to make sure, can I understand all these ingredients? Is there anything here that I've heard from Dr. Anna or others that's not good for my body? And it's sometimes the small stuff, right? My almond milk now, if it only has 3 or 4 ingredients that I can understand called milk, water, and some salt, okay, but if it has the gums in it and
Yeah.
other stuff, it's a no because your program has helped me to understand toxins really can wreck our hormones, wreak havoc in our body, mess with our brain ability to really be clear. I don't know what killed my friends, but I know that both of them didn't sleep. They ate food from other places. They didn't cook hardly at all. And they surely sat at a desk and didn't get
Mhm,
exercise. So
mhm.
my philosophy of if you don't know what to do the opposite of what you saw is still standing me in good stead. And also for me, if you find someone who has been the path that you want to go, follow that person, right? Believe in what they're saying and what your body is showing as results. Exhibit one, my pants falling off in the train station. Also, my bras, I had to put on new bras because if you lose a lot of weight and you got a bigger cup on and your bra is just hitting on the sides, right? That's not a good one either. So,
Another good visual, Angela. Well, I wanna thank you so much for sharing your story and for and being so vulnerable with it today, and you're like, "Look, I'm still in it, like, I'm still learning." I'm still learning, Angela, I'm still learning, and it's this, this willingness to learn, willingness to question authority, willingness to ask questions, and to work with, like, we can't find a provider that's, all in functional medicine, but having a provider you can work with and communicate with that's willing, like, okay, I'll order these tests for you, Angela. Okay, let's see what we can do to wean down. And just a note before I forget on mold toxicity, that real-time mycotoxin test. Yeah, I want you to get that test, real-time mycotoxin, because to look like when we remediate a house, and I've been through a couple mold remediations, I mean, we tear down walls and then we don't evaluate our physical body. I mean, we are organic structures, right? So we've got to evaluate that. And that's one of the tests that can help. And total tox burden test is another really good test. And I would just think, okay, toxicity can affect our hormones. And
yeah, I need your test.
you
I'm gonna
definitely,
get them.
yeah,
These
I can't wait to see you in Magic Menopause this year and just, that you show up so authentically and sharing. So that's why I wanted to have you on the Girlfriend Doctor show to share your story and your wisdom and an inspiration truly. So I'm here for you. Keep doing what you're doing and I look forward to seeing you in this upcoming round of Magic Menopause. Any final word for our listeners?
Yes. For anyone who's wondering whether or not Dr. Anna is the real McCoy, I hope my story has helped you to say she is. For anyone who's been praying and saying, God, my body isn't okay and I don't know what it is, Dr. Anna is a resource who genuinely is smart and she cares. I can't recommend her any higher than 100% without reservation. Don't walk, run to get engaged with her programs, particularly Magic Menopause, if you're in the category that can benefit from that. It has been for me a lifesaver, literally, and I believe it will be the same for you and whatever issues you have. Instead of saying Simon says, I usually will tell people, Dr. Anna says,
You're so
and
funny.
it's only because she's proven to be on point and to make a huge difference. So if you're listening and you've been praying, hey, don't let God say to you if you get to heaven early, I sent you this, I sent you this, and I sent you Dr. Anna, and you left it, right? Step in and get your healing.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am honored. Angela, how can people coach with you?
If they want to coach with me, a couple ways you can reach out. I have a website, but it's in the process of being moved over. So that's one way you can look to see. Another one is you can send me an email at angelacrumpvolcy@gmail.com. I won't give out my phone number in case a quack is listening, right?
Yeah.
But the email would reach me. And the audience that I love coaching are busy, stressed career women who have rediscovered their priceless worth and who now want to make time for joy and fun. I have a 12-week program that has really gotten transformation for a lot of folks. And then there's a 6-month option or a 12-month option. Um, my care about is that you live. My
Mhm,
care about is that I don't have another person who's like my friend Pat. And
mhm.
my care about is that if you watch my life, I'm modeling what I'm asking you to do. So that's me in a nutshell. uh, Not that smart about all the medical stuff, don't have to be. You have to know a Dr. Anna in your life,
Oh, well, you have
but
to be
committed.
willing to to advocate for yourself, to know your worth, to use your
Yeah.
voice, and to
Yes.
make small but consistent discipline changes. And
Yeah, yeah,
okay, so Angela Crump-Volcy, and we'll put the link in the show notes at gmail.com. And
mhm.
also you have your Facebook groups and
Yes.
all the good
I have
stuff.
I forgot, yeah. I have a Facebook thank you. I have a Facebook group, Be Wonderful You with Angela Crump-Volcy, and then I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'm in the middle right now, depending on when this publishes, of doing a 31-day Facebook Live challenge. Today, I'm gonna talk about setting boundaries. Yesterday, I told the story of me and my wig in Edinburgh, and how embarrassing that was, but afterwards, it was funny, right? So,
And I
I'm
think a gift of longevity, I mean, a clue for longevity is when you're able to laugh at yourself. I think
oh,
that's
that's good. That's a good one,
that's
Dr.
really
Ann. Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
In the moment, it was the most embarrassing incident ever, but I laugh about it now, and I ended that particular live with saying, "Life is funny, laugh at yourself."
perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you again for spending time with me today and spending time with our group, our listeners. And I encourage you guys to check out what Angela Crump-Volcy is doing and how she's sharing and coaching. And I also warmly invite you into Magic Menopause this year. You'll be able to interact live and get the information that I've worked so hard to figure out. And I had to figure it out for myself. So I'm not keeping it to myself. I'm really wanting to share this with all of you and give one step. I know Angela's story inspires me and sure inspires you. So I look forward to seeing you guys next time on the Girlfriend Doctor Show. Keep asking your questions. You wanted to hear real stories. I'm bringing them, and it is lighting me up. So, and I want to hear yours. I look forward to hearing yours too. All right, everyone. Thank you. Till next time on the Girlfriend Doctor.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Girlfriend Doctor podcast. Check out all the links below for more.